So hello, I am Vaibhav Rajmani and I'm a 21-year-old guy. I just graduated from mass communication from Don Bosco College, Panjim. So when I was a child, I always had a cycle since I was a kid. I even had the training wheels and everything when I was a small child. So I used to ride around below my house, and then later as I grew up, I started going to different places, exploring different new places. I used to go to Devar a lot. I used to go to Shorao. Those were like my favorite places that I used to go to. And it was just amazing. I used to see all these sunsets every evening, just go and relax. So that's how I used to spend my evening, just cycling to different places. And that's how I built my develop my interest in cycling as a whole. So when I was a kid itself, I always had a bucket list that I want to break a Guinness World Record. And one random evening, it just hit me that, you know what, let's just go through the whole list of Guinness World Records that are there currently. And then I started going through all the Guinness World Records. I spent like 5 hours just looking through different records and seeing what record can I actually break. And then I came across the record with longest distance cycled, no hands. And that time it was 122 kilometers. So I was like, okay, this is something I can beat. And then I started practicing towards it, and eventually now here I am, breaking it on the 17th of December. So I've been practicing for the past 5 years for this whole event as a whole. But now I started by cycling like short distances at the start by doing 40 kilometers and 50 kilometers ride. And then eventually I started going to 100-kilometer rides. I took part in events, 100-kilometer BRMs. And then later, as I got comfortable with riding longer distances, I started practicing on a ground, taking laps. So I started riding laps on the ground hands-free so that I can practice for my ride. So I work full-time, and then after my full-time job at 6 o'clock, I used to go practice from 6 to 1 a.m. So I work at Museum of Goa. I work under Subodh Kerkar. I'm his videographer and video editor. I make all the content for him, all the social media content. So the experience is absolutely amazing. Like, it's like they are like a whole family to me, and they are like the sweetest people I've ever met. So to break the record, I have to cycle 1,167 laps. So the only thing that I don't have to do is touch my handlebars. So once I start, I can't touch it. If any point of time I end up touching it even by mistake, the attempt is over. So I used to practice every alternate day at the start so that I have enough time to relax and recover. But then later, as I started cycling longer distances, 120, 140 kilometers, I started taking longer breaks. I take now 4 days breaks. And recovery, I also do yoga and I do stretching a lot. I stretch even before my cycling starts. So there's all the warm-up, there's like 15 minutes of warm-up. And as I'm riding, I ride with I drink a lot of water, I drink a lot of electrolytes, and I have a lot of carbs like bananas and dates during my rides. So I was a part of Team Pro Bike, and Kunal Malhotra, he has been advising me on how to go about with my diet, what stretches to do, how to go about with all the different yoga poses. If some part of my leg is hurting, he would tell me like which exercise to do and all those things. So if I want to apply for a Guinness World Record, if it's an existing record, then there's an application form that you have to fill. After filling the application form, they take about 12 weeks to process the form. And then after that is done, you have 1 year to complete the Guinness World Record. And if it's a new title, you have to pay $100 to create that new title. And then you still have 1 year to complete. So you have to do your whole attempt and provide your evidence within that 1 year time. So I created mine in January, and mine expires again in January. So currently the ground that I was riding on, it did not have lights. So kindly enough, now there have been 5 lights put up, but we still need more lights. Then there's expenditure for camera people because we have to document the whole attempt. Then we need photographers who are going to take photos of the event. We need witnesses, we need timekeepers who are going to keep track of all the laps and the time of the laps. And then we have all the volunteers who are going to look after the crowd management, all those things that are involved. So there are costs for everything like this. So we started a crowdfunding, and through that we have tried to collect more money and self-finance this on our own. Although we also have Rohan Kaute, who has been trying to help us from his side. And government has been trying to help, but the thing is that government says that it's going to take time to do it. So government says that if it's possible, just push it ahead to January. And that is not possible for me because my application expires in January. So if I wait for them, then I'll have to wait for another 1 year to complete it. I wanted to do it on 4th of April, but that time I wanted to do it in indoor place. and I was thinking of doing it in Shama Prasad, but Shama Prasad was charging me 4.5 lakh rupees just for 8 hours, and it was not feasible for me to pay that 4.5 lakhs at that time. So then later I thought I'll do it in winter. Winter is more cooler, and I can do it outdoors. I don't need an indoor place because there's not much heat during the winters. So that's why I chose 17th of December. So I was eventually going to start at 12 p.m. and then ride till like 10 p.m. and stuff. But I spoke to another guy who broke a Guinness World Record. His name is Pankaj. He's done 5,597 Surya Namaskars in 24 hours. And he told me that if you've been practicing so many months in the night, there's no point in changing your time for the Guinness World Record in last minute because your body has adapted to practicing in the night. So he suggested that I start in the night itself, like start after the sun goes down and then you just ride. So that's why I decided to start at 5 o'clock, even though it's not perfectly night, but I'll start at 5 and then we'll finish by 2 o'clock in the night. I have done many 100 kilometers, like 100 kilometers is my, comfortable riding spot. But over that I've done 125, I've done 140, I've done 150 also, but it's very, very exhausting to do that much. It's not something I would personally like to do. To the youth, I would just say that cycling is really fun. Like, take it as a fun thing. Just ride along with your friends, ride with your family. It's a really relaxing thing. If you take it up as a sport also, it's really amazing. It takes you to different places and it just unlocks different things for you. So for me, cycling has always been a huge part of my life. I have been cycling even to school. I used to cycle always to school. My school shifted to Kujira. I used to cycle from Panjim to Kujira every morning. I used to reach to school all sweaty. Even though there was an option to take the bus, I used to still go by cycle. I used to enjoy cycling so much. And even after I passed from my schools in Kujira, I used to go to Don Bosco. Even there I used to go by cycle itself, even though I had a bike at that time. So it was always a fun thing for me. Like, I looked at it as a nice option just to relax and go to college instead of having a scooter. And I didn't have to worry about fuel expenses if I take the cycle as well. So that's how I ride cycle so much. And it's also that I have a bike. I love riding my bike. I go for so many long distance rides and I still make time to go cycling because I enjoy that, like, from within. So my future plan basically is that I want to be a storyteller through visual medium. So I want to tell stories through different visuals, not much narration, but have a lot of stories to be told. And I also want to be an FPV drone pilot, and that's my dream. It was a different experience for me. It was something really new, something exciting. I met really fun people there. I worked at Go 365 and they were super sweet and really, really nice people.